Well, we're now 2 hours and 12 minutes into the race, and the runners, almost all of the runners are through our first checkpoint here. So we're going to cross over to Andrew Booth, who's the race director of KZN Trail Running. He's the man behind KZN Trail Running and the Karkloof Trail Series. So good to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, no, it's great to be in the studio. Pop onto this side of things, having been on that side for most of the
This has been your baby now for 5 years, this particular race, and you've seen it grow, and you've fed it, and it has grown, and it's grown into a fantastic event. But that has come with challenges and logistical challenges and lessons you've learned over those 5 years. Tell us about year one and how things have changed and evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember taking year one on, Linda, and knowing that it's by far the biggest thing we're taking on, and briefing the crew accordingly and saying, guys, this is it. If we do well here and we get this right, and people give us good feedback and people talk about it, it'll change the trajectory of what we're doing here. And it did. It really did. Like that, after that first year, even though we got a lot of things wrong, because it was our first one we were doing, the big building blocks were there, and everyone had a good time, bar one or two slip-ups, and yeah, I believe a first event is so important because it sets the tone, and it did. It was a community event straight up. The thing we got worse, the thing we did the worst was media, and here we sit in a world-class live studio, and yet we completely hashed year one media, but we were held together by the crowd who were engaging with the race, who were moving from aid station to aid station, who were telling the story themselves on their social media platforms, in amongst their WhatsApp groups. So no one actually ever felt like we had done a bad job, because everyone was informed by the race by other people following it.
Right.
But obviously that's something we've taken to a new level, and it is a big challenge, because you've got 50 miles which you've got to cover, because it's an out and back. So fortunately not the full 100, but to be able to have everything and all of these checkpoints timeously. Yeah, it's the biggest challenge. Eh?
It is. Connectivity remains a big challenge. It's a challenge in South Africa, and it's an additional challenge being trail related, because by its very nature, trail races are out there in remote areas. So how are you achieving that successfully?
Yeah, we do use normal comms, obviously, but we can't like rely on them completely. So we bring in things like digital handsets and stuff, so we can talk to one another across the course, because that's the most important thing at the end of the day, is that we can communicate with our crews. And so in those dead spots, these really they're digital, so they almost don't have a dead spot. They don't, and they operate off a repeater on the top of Mount Gilboa. So they're our backup. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, you brief your crew and you get everyone up to speed as much as you can, and then you throw it down the alley, so to speak. You can't hold on to it until and then try and control it.
Yeah.
You got to build and build and build and build. But once the race starts, you know, you can't control. You've got to. Well, I mean, obviously you have to ride with it. You have to control to a point, because you know, if something major happens, then we need those certainties. But if you try overboard and you try and make sure that everything's perfect, and you don't just let your teams on the ground get on with it, then you're fighting an uphill battle. So yeah, I got a lot of trust out on the people all out there on the course this evening.
You've got a great team, and this year, of course, with this very live broadcast, it's the first of its kind. It's the first time that anybody's done this in South Africa. I know that in trail, and I know that it's modelled very much on the Western States 100 model, and it's working really well.
Yeah, no, it is, especially these times. I mean, I said it in the briefing that it's the first time in ages that I feel like a crowd has just come together and just got on with things, and of course there's our COVID protocols in place, but maybe we've become used enough to them that they don't bother us as much as they used to, and just to fill this venue with people, to create a vibe like that, yeah, no, it's really special. Hey?
It's another great thing about this year. I know last year as well you were based at this venue, but this year obviously you can have more people, more spectators, family. It's family friendly, it's camping friendly. It's you as Carkloof have this venue, whereas previously the first 3 races you were more in Howick.
Yes.
And obviously it came with its limitations parking wise, etc. But this with its space is
No, it works
unlimited.
perfectly. And you know, the story behind it is that we planned year 1 to start and finish the race from here as an out and back. And about 4 months before, they realized they had a double booking for a wedding. So we were second in line. We booked after the wedding. But we had 4 months still to plan, so we went back to the drawing board and decided actually starting the race in town would be pretty cool, and Yard 41 was perfect. And we thought we had done the right thing, and the first 3 years went off well. We knew that the size of the venue might always challenge us at Yard 41, but we still felt like that was the right sequence of events, and maybe it was to get the race started.
Yeah.
But then the irony of coming back here and actually discovering that it actually is a better venue,
Yes,
especially
yes.
as the race grows,
Yes.
and go back to where we started. But yeah, it's not what we thought along the way. We thought when we were in town that was a great place to be,
Yes,
until we came here. And I think one of the most special things was that when everyone arrived to register, they were all here. It wasn't like you arrived to register and then went to your accommodation or then went to the campsite. And so it wasn't disjunct. It brought everything together.
Right.
And I think that's something that we try at every event at KZN Trail Running, is to not split it apart. And COVID's kind of forced us to split things a bit, because you don't want everyone
congregating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you do bring a race together like that, and everyone's energy together, that's when the magic happens. And
Well,
we
the
felt
vibe
it.
here was fantastic
Yeah.
today, I must say, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's vibe with the 50.
And the marathon as well coming in, yeah.
I think a lot of people are keen to hear about, with the slight change with the change of race start and finish venue. That, I presume, doesn't change the distance of the race. The
There we
route
go.
distance.
A couple of our back markers coming
Okay,
through.
our last 2 back markers, possibly last 2 back markers, coming through, looking very cheerful.
Really does. Yeah. Walking it in.
Does the course distance remain the same or as close to it as possible, and the vertical gain over the course?
Yeah, so we paid some attention to that when redesigning, and very similar. Very, very similar. So we aim for that 100 miles on the dot.
Yes.
Maybe just a bit further, because you don't want to be shorter.
No,
do
don't
you?
want to be short.
So we aim for that, and we've measured it out in segments. But this will be the first time someone runs it all in one go. And nowadays we can only measure with GPS. We can't measure with anything more accurate. And there's a 10% differential there when you actually look at all the different units. So it's as accurate as we can get it.
And you
but-
can still therefore compare records.
Yeah, I think you'll always have kind of old course records and that sort of stuff. I think the first 10 miles went a lot quicker than the first 10 miles of the previous course.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not necessarily always fair to compare
Right.
course on
Or it
course.
could be the front 3 runners were panicked by each other. And
It could well have been. But I also
each
think
other.
that we haven't seen nearly what's possible on the Carkloof 100 miler from the world's best 100-mile runners.
Yes,
We're
yes.
yet to see that. Not to take anything away from any of the winners to date, but I believe it's a course that can be run much closer to the 15-hour mark, and
Right.
we're still sitting just over
Wow.
17.
Yeah.
So there's a good 2 hours out there to be taken.
Interesting.
On a good year.
And I wonder if that'll be taken by a South African runner, or in the future, when hopefully COVID eases up a bit, an international runners flock, because they will. I wonder if it'll be an international name.
Who
that-
finally puts it there.
Yes,
Hey?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good 100-mile runners out there. Obviously, for South Africa, Ryan Sands pops up into everyone's heads very quickly, and he's the kind of runner who would run a 15 here if he had his day. Someone who has that potential. But yeah, it would be great to draw someone from Europe or America or the East or Australia and give it a real crack and see where they came out and set a new mark, because we want to. I think once someone, like the 4-minute mile, once someone's broken it and starts going that fast, everyone will be like, oh, okay. And you've seen that in the 100-mile scene around the world, how much quicker it's got in the last 5 years. Yeah.
So maybe Jim Walmsley.
Hey Jim, I believe he's after Comrades first.
Yes, Comrades first, then Karkloof. But I think Karkloof first, then Comrades.
Yeah, you can use it as a warm-up.
Ah, yes, indeed.
But cool, yeah, Linda, it's great to be on this side of the conversation for a while. You can see a bit of live stuff coming out there. I'm not sure who's up front. I believe it was Kennedy, but looking on the app here for a couple of updates.
And also, I'd like to know I'm interested to see I think that's Joe we're seeing there.
It does look like Joe, yeah. First lady.
How the front runners are spacing out.
Yeah, whether there's any gaps there. We'll get some more information that should come off.
They'll soon be at Rockwood.
At Rockwood, yeah. So we're at what? They've been out 2:20.
Obviously, communications will always be somewhat challenging from time to time.
Yeah, they will be, but they start to, and there's sometimes in a race like this a few things to be smoothened out. I can see on the app there 1 or 2 things that are just being adjusted for the timing. So yeah, there's always some smoothing to do in the early phases, but hopefully we get it all nice and smooth and yeah, bring it out at the end of the day with yeah, a full field. Let's see how many we get home. That's always the question.
Well, yes, and I'm interested to see what tomorrow's heat, the predicted temperatures tomorrow do to the runners.
Yeah, that's going to play properly.
And also we're coming out of winter. We haven't trained in summer temperatures. So, well, in Cape Town we're coming out of winter. You guys are already in summer.
We've had quite a cool year so far, so that is true. We haven't had to deal with too much heat. I think definitely is going to play a role. But what I do like is that it's cooling off in the evenings. You know, we've had some years, particularly we always talk about the 2019 year, where at night it even seemed to stay quite warm, and guys were coming into the first aid station and just pouring water over themselves. As opposed to, you know, now it's cooled off quite nicely. You can, you know, you're not going to have to struggle with heat. First time you're going to probably have to start thinking about it is like maybe 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. As we start to play a role.
Once the sun's up properly.
Yeah. But no, all good, eh?
Well, we saw some of the 8 stations there, 5 along the route, with some other ones that are in between, Linda, but we say 5. It is a lot more than 5 because it's an out and back course, so the 100-mile athletes will actually have 10 of them all together. But where we're based here at the Carkloof Country Club, we've got the first aid station here, which the runners came through at the 15-kilometer mark, manned by the pirates, dressed as pirates from Pirate Road Runners. And we've got a short little video request of this first aid station where we are here based at the Carkloof Country Club. Well, beautiful venue where we are here, situated at the Carkloof Country Club, and I can't remember, Linda, when last I actually slept in a tent. I'm actually looking forward to, it's going to be chilly, but I'm looking forward to the whole tent village tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great vibe here. We've got a lot of the family and friends of the 100-milers. And then, of course, there's many of tomorrow's 50-mile runners staying here and their family and friends. So it's going to be good. I'm interested to see what time everybody wakes up, of course, because the 50-miler starts at 6 a.m. And
we'll be up very early. We will be back live at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
An early start. But the good thing is the coffee is good, so that's good fuel for us. But the temperature is very cool, and actually Andrew was just saying to me just now, the race director, that in previous years it's been warm. It's been quite warm at night, and the runners have come into the first aid station and poured water over themselves. Whereas tonight is relatively cool, but surely in strong contrast to what it'll be like tomorrow. Once the sun's up mid-morning, the temperatures have restored, and they're going to get to a good 30-32 degrees tomorrow. So that'll certainly take its toll on the runners.
Yeah, not only the 32 degrees, but the humidity that comes with it, being in KwaZulu-Natal. So hopefully the runners, they're well experienced. They'll be definitely hydrating themselves properly, fueling the correct way. We've spoken a lot about fueling tonight. Integral part of not only ultra distance running, but trail running in specific, because I mean, when you run a Comrades marathon, you get water tables every 1.5-2 kilometers, but yeah, as you mentioned earlier, it's every 10 miles until you see the next aid station.
That's right, yeah. And it's so important over this distance as well to monitor your fueling, liquid and solid, and eat when you eat regardless of whether you want it or not, because you've got to think now for later. You've always got to be thinking for later, and particularly with heat like they're going to experience tomorrow, the 50-mile runners and the 100-mile runners, they're going to be losing a lot of salts through sweat, and they're going to need to replenish in advance of needing it.
And it is quite an art to it as well, because as much as you don't want to be dehydrated, there's even worse off consequences if you overhydrate.
Hyponatremia, indeed. And the tricky thing is the symptoms are the same. So there have often been cases where a medic, for example, might misinterpret the symptoms and put you on a drip thinking that you're dehydrated, and actually you're overhydrated. And yeah, it can be a killer. Yeah.
Well, just over 2 hours and 35 minutes into the 2021 Karkloof Trail Series. Your take on it so far, Linda? We saw the front runners come through here really quickly. Guys like Andrew Erasmus, who have been twice on the podium before, looking a lot more gentle and relaxed coming through. In the ladies race, we saw Joy Kepler 6 minutes ahead of a trio of ladies who came in second, third, fourth, which included Trish Eckstein in there. Your take on the race so far?
Well, yeah, it was interesting looking at the visible stress level of the front three guys who came in significantly ahead, at least a couple of minutes ahead of Andrew. They looked quite stressed really by each other, or certainly very aware of each other, and they and they raced out. Whereas Andrew trotted quite comfortably after I wouldn't say taking his time, but comfortably replenishing his stocks and going through the aid station and trotting off. He looked very in control and quite comfortable and quite at ease with where he was as chase pack.
And I think definitely as we go to sleep tonight, obviously with the 11 o'clock curfew, when we do return to studio in the morning at 5:30, I think things are going to look a lot different to how we left it tonight.
Indeed, absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, we're live on air.
And we have, I think, coming through here, we have one of the. That's Linda. Linda Kappenberger coming through.
She went through quite quickly there in the aid station.
In fact, she just passed. She didn't replenish. She's going for a rest break. And we haven't seen the sweep. There's still so Linda is presumably not the back runner. Very early days, and much can happen. This is Linda's first 100 miler.
Wow.
She did a 100k circuit race about a month ago in preparation for this, and achieved that. So she's quite nervous about this 100 miles, but she'll do it. I think she'll do it.
Yeah, well, she's got until Sunday morning, the cut-off, Linda?
36 hours.
36 hours.
Yes.
Take my hat off to them. You know,
it's a long
to
time
start
away.
on Friday night and finish on Sunday morning.
That's
an amazing achievement. You also coach not only elite athletes, but athletes from the middle of the pack right to the back. You've got some athletes that are also looking to be finishing by Sunday morning.
Yes. One particular athlete has a physical challenge, and he will be the happiest man to achieve his first ever 100 miler. So yes, I've got runners spanning the full field, indeed.
And in the 50 miler as well tomorrow?
I have 2 runners in the 50 miler, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the 50 miler is going to be quite an interesting one tomorrow, with a lot of the comrades, road athletes taking part. So I think we're going to see some challenging things there. But we've been talking about some of the aid stations, and let's take you on another little video intro into the Rockwood aid station.
All right, great. Evening, everyone. It's 11:15, and we've got probably, I think, 12 runners still to come through the first aid station for the night. So we're slowly winding down our live broadcast here, and I thought what I would do is just give you a run through of the route of what everyone's going through currently, and we'll go through tomorrow when the sun comes up. So essentially, when you look at the video play, we started at the country club. We did a 16k loop across what we call the milk trails, and then down across the Carcliff River, down to the falls, and then back through some beautiful forestry areas up to the country club again. You'll be able to see the graphic now running through. There's a little bit of a climb at the beginning, and then they drop right down onto the river, and then make their way back up through the forestry area. It's pretty runnable and quick trails, and we saw that by the times that the guys came through. After that, we go out west up on what we're calling the Honey Loop. It's not a loop this time, but they follow the Carcliff River and get up to one of the higher points of the route, and start making their way north down to the Rockwood Aid Station, through the valley floors, across some beautiful farmlands, some new areas. This is a new part of the course that we've put in, and so the runners don't have to go on the district road. They can now go on the single track trails. After that, from Rockwood, they head across the plateaus and into Bushwillow Aid Station. Really runnable part, one big climb, biggest climb of the day, and into Bushwillow. After Bushwillow, we're on the valley floor from here all the way to pretty much to Mbona. Some lovely running. If you've run 3 Cranes, you run on some of those trails, and then through some really well-grown plantations. And then one big climb up to the Mbona Gate, which is our 4th aid station. And you'll see on the graphic now, after a bit of winding through the forest, there's a little bit of a bump up to Mbona Gate. It's a little bit of a sting in the tail, but pretty cool. After that, the runners get to go into Mbona Nature Reserve, which is the most magnificent single track grass trails running all around dams and trout lakes and through some indigenous forest, through this beautiful housing estate. And they pop out the other side and make their way into a very well-renowned farm called Benvie, who are renowned for their abattoirum and their gardens called the Benvie Gardens. And it's there where they turn, and they start running back home, and they do it all in reverse. And that gives you a bit of an idea around what the guys are going through. I think everyone's pretty much between Carcliff Country Club and Rockwood Aid Station. We'll get an update on the app in due course, and we've got another runner going out here. Linda's heading out on her loop, which is pretty cool. And I think, guys, that is pretty much going to be our wrap for this evening. Thank you for joining us. It's been groundbreaking, to say the least. It's been fantastic to be able to follow the runners on some of the course. Tomorrow's going to be really exciting. We're going to have really good visuals. We'll be able to see the runners. We'll have lots of cameramen out en route, and the action will certainly hot up, in particular at the start of the 50 miler. In particular, once the 50 miler are in the race for about the first 6 Ks, we don't have cell signals, so we won't see them, but then they'll pop out and we'll be able to follow them. There's some really exciting runners running that, and we'll see the 100 milers as they head into the second day, and the sun comes up for them. So join us tomorrow morning from 5:30 in the morning. We'll be crossing to myself. I'll be starting the 50 milers at Benvie. And Linda and Kieran, thank you so much for the great job you guys have done. They've gone off to rest, and we will see you guys 5:30 tomorrow morning, same place. Can't wait for it. Take it easy, and thanks for joining us. Over and out from the Carcliff Country Club.